I am doing a quick playthrough of Elden Ring's DLC and having a blast. I've mostly been rushing through a lot of bosses and enjoying the really nice vistas this game provides, but it's given me too much time where I've not made a video and I've been procrastinating because this DLC is amazing. And instead of not making the video and not playing Elden Ring, I'm just going to do both at the same time for convenience sake. And so, the intent of this video is to talk about scope and perspective. And I think Elden Ring is a good fit for this discussion, especially due to the scale of the base game and the scale of the DLC, which, as you can see, is massive. And as designers, artists, people just passionate about art and media in general, I think the idea of always making really large projects or always needing to fulfill some end goal with the things that we create and enjoy while I continue to wait to summon people in, now seems like a good time to talk about scope and the ideas we have in our minds versus their execution. Scope generally refers to a project planning idea where scope refers to the scale of the project. Now, when designing art, scale can mean a lot of different things. Scale could be intended reach, or sorry, scope. Scope could be intended reach. It could be how many different programs you're going to use to make this thing come to fruition. It could be how many hours you're going to put in to actually get this done, and figuring out how long that may take when you only have so many hours in a day. And I think weighing those things out is one of the hardest things you can do as a burgeoning creative, whether as a musician or as an artist or whatever field you may be in where you're designing and creating things. Sometimes it's easier to have large ideas in our head because larger ideas are often more succinct than the smaller ones. And what I mean by that is that to have a small idea, there has to be more nuance in the ideas you want to execute. I think saying something like, I want to make a 3D open world where you can build and craft things is a lot easier to say than I want to design a game about brotherly trauma and the difficulties of growing up. Smaller ideas require more nuance because you have to spend more time developing those different ideas. And I think as artists, finding the space in which we're comfortable to constantly create on a daily basis, both in terms of, having the motivation to actually do it and the consistency to also do it. Um, Scope is important because, a lot of the times you're working on a project by yourself if you're just an indie dev or a single artist or just um, a hobbyist. You don't have a studio, you don't have a budget, you don't have the same resources as someone making the next Call of Duty game or a well-renowned painter with a studio. And so scope sounds like a bad thing, but I think it's in the depths of that nuance where good art is made, even if you're AAA or super big publisher, they still have to deal with scope. You can't spend billions of dollars making Redfall and then the game fails at the end of it. But yeah, how do we assess and define scope as an artist without, spending millions of days in a document trying to figure out what would be good for our project at hand? Well, I think scope is both something you can write out. I can say, okay, I'm gonna work. Am I gonna miss every part of this combo? Okay, I can say that scope is something you write out. Please don't do it again. I can say that scope is something you write out. Ouch. or you assign just in your own understanding of the things you can do. So what I mean by that is like I make daily touch designer projects because it's an effective way to spend my time. I really enjoy working in touch designer, and for me to make something, it's very convenient because I'm already super familiar with the program. Versus if I wanted to write a book or assign myself, days to write out the book, I would have to do things very differently because if I spent every day writing, then I wouldn't have a lot of well edited and executed ideas. And I also think just writing every day burns me out in a different kind of way that working on little touch designer projects does. Um, we have our own different skill sets, and we like to do some things, we don't like to do other things. Um, and that all plays into a part in what kind of art you're willing to grind yourself against for an extended period of time. I'm really surprised I did this boss while talking about this. Cool. But I think it's important to recognize that even though scope seems like a daunting task, in that you want to always create something all the time, you have the next big idea, whether that's coding or something else, you want to have something executed. And you want to be able to show the world that you can create things on your own, share your ideas, share your story. But you can't do that if you spend your time trying to refine big ideas. And maybe big comparing it as like big ideas and small ideas is not the best language, but I think you can understand what I mean when I say the nuance of what you want to execute has to be a lot tighter, not only as an independent, but if you want to create good projects and good stories if you're on your own. Working independently is hard. Keeping yourself. My name is Dreamscale or Dreamsicle, and I just wanted to thank you for listening to me talk about art and play some Elden Ring. I plan on actually showcasing some of these ideas in some tutorials in the future for Blender, Touch Designer, and a ton of other art programs. My future content will be a mix of tutorials, discussions like this one. I mostly just want to talk about the how and why artists make art. I feel like in a lot of tutorials you see the techniques but don't really get to appreciate how and why those techniques were formed. I think that as artists, just following along tutorials isn't really enough to understand conceptually what's going on. You can see someone draw a dog, but that doesn't mean you know how to draw other animals or understand anatomy. So in that sense, I'm hoping that by blending these art discussions with actual tutorials, it can teach fundamentals and also expand the skill set of current artists. But thank you for watching again. Please like and subscribe. Are these discussions interesting? Do you have issues with scope when you make art? Please leave any comments or any kind of experiences you've had in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching.